Hi, welcome to Book Bites with Maggie. My name is Maggie Carr. I'm the Youth Services Assistant here at Napanee Public Library. Joining me on today's episode is Sarah. She is our Interim Director and long-term Assistant Director. So there you go. She's got a super long title right now, and I'm so excited to have her join us for our episode today. It is kind of an emotional one.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about books that are about foster care and adoption. So, I mean, just very... If you want a book to make you cry, I think every single one of our books that we're going to be talking about today can make you cry.
Yeah, yes. Some of mine can also make you laugh, but yes. This is, no matter what, it's a sensitive topic.
Exactly. It's very sensitive. So with the topics that we're going to be covering today in our books, we've got multiple genres. As we hold up our books that we have here in our Napanee Public Library collection, we'll try to let you know if it comes in an alternate format. If you have your Napanee Public Library card, you do have access to some of our digital materials. We currently have Hoopla, which is ebooks, e-audiobooks, magazines, movies. What else is on there?
Oh, golly.
Like
graphic novels, pretty much. Hoopla has everything. Hoopla has,
and you have
music,
multiple
movies,
checkouts every month. Mm-hmm. We also have Libby, and we're part of the Indiana Digital Library Consortium, and you have access, I feel like it's like over 200,000.
Thousands of, yes.
Oodles of materials. Mm-hmm. So if you cannot physically get into the library, or you prefer a non-physical book format, we have options. Mm-hmm. So we will let you know what we have available. And then after we're done with our episode, we'll leave a list of all of the books that we're mentioning in the comments.
The other thing, too, is your Napanee Public Library card also gets you access to interlibrary loan.
Yes.
So if you want a physical book and we don't have it on the shelf, you can ask us to request it from another library for you, and we can get it coming.
Yes, so it is delivered here. You read it from us, return it to us, we ship it back to the other library. So with the cost of gas, take advantage of that if we do not have it in the format that you're looking for on our physical shelves. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get started. We have so many books, and it doesn't look like we have that many because so many of them are currently checked out. So in that case, we're going to hold up a little paper copy that we printed out from the internet. It shows a cover of the book. But by all means, if there is one of these books that we have, whether it is just a paper copy or a physical copy, and it's something that you are interested in, let us know in the comments. We can put them straight on the hold shelf and contact you for pickup. Mm-hmm. And if it is currently checked out, we would put you on hold for it, and you can pick it up when it's returned. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is one of the first books that I read. Nope, I lied. This is the first one. I loved it so much that I read another one by the same author. This is Before I Called You Mine by Nicole Deese. It is a contemporary Christian fiction romance, and it focuses on international adoption. Mm-hmm. So I really liked learning more about what an international versus domestic adoption is like. It's kind of hidden in the storyline where you get the ins and outs of what is expected from a home family. So in this case, it's a single first grade teacher. She is just kind of decided, I want a family. International is the way to go for me. She starts the process after multiple years, horrible dating relationships, and she's just kind of done. She's going to build her own family. International adoption is the way that she goes. And won't you know that as she's going through the process, they tell her, hey, we're going to put a child in your placement, but we're going to ask that there are not other adults that are coming and going from the home while you are building this relationship. I had never heard of that. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if it's something that the author took liberties with, but it throws into your storyline then. Okay, that means she knows she's not going to be dating. Mm-hmm. She's not going to have other people in the home, and then she falls in love. So now she has to have the choice between the wages of the heart. Do you go after a romance, falling in love with somebody, starting a life with them? Do you continue on with the adoption journey? So this one totally was new to me. I learned a lot as I was reading it, but it was just a really good book. So you can follow Lauren and Joshua in this book, and we have it as a book and an ebook. It is currently checked out, but if it interests you, we can put it on hold. Mm-hmm. Do you have any others that were like fictionized?
I have a YA fiction. I have young adult fiction, teen fiction is what we call it here. Far from the Tree. Author is Robin Benway. I read this book several years ago, loved it. It's one of those that I would say makes you laugh and makes you cry. It's a all the feels type book. It's just also stunningly well written. It follows, I gotta get my notes here, since it's been a few years since I read it, but it follows 3 teenagers, all from the same biological family, who were given up for adoption or foster and placed in different homes. and reconnect through a set of there are a set of circumstances that brings them back together, basically, or it helps them find each other. It is told in alternating voices. Each one of the teens gets their own chapter, and it keeps going back and forth. And so you basically have interwoven stories, interwoven experiences, but told in different voices. So I love that. It's really, really well done in this book. Other things I loved about this book were, same as I always feel about a lot of YA fiction and middle grade fiction, it deals with really sensitive, tough topics. I think in this one, it covers everything from, one of the characters is pregnant as a young teenager. I think she's 15 or 16 maybe. So it deals with teen pregnancy, it deals with abuse, it deals with alcoholism, it deals with a lot of really sensitive topics, but it's not whacking you over the head with it. It's wrapped in story, and somehow that makes you able to experience it with the character in a safe way, if that makes sense.
And I think that's why that genre has blossomed.
Yes.
And there are
Yeah.
so many people that are not teens that are reading
Yes.
that genre.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, this is one of those that I think YA is for everybody, but this is definitely one of those teen books that is not specifically for a teen audience. Adults would love it, teens would love it. I would say younger readers probably want to be careful with it just because of some of what it covers. It's just a beautifully written book and a really, really wonderful family story, and it explores like the larger theme of how a family gets made, not just who you're born to, but who you make your family and how that happens.
I think that's a common theme
It
in
is.
several of these.
Across all of my
Oh,
media,
yeah.
I would say, yeah.
So this one here specifically, though, it's won awards, or it's been
It
up
has,
for
yeah. It was a
awards?
National Book Award. National Book Award winner.
Oh, it's
What's
on the
the
front.
medal on the cover?
Oh,
National
there you
Book Award finalist. It got rave reviews. It's won several awards, or it was longlisted for several awards. It's just a stunning book.
And this one too, I feel like, and it's been a couple years since I read this one as well. It reminds me of, what is that primetime show right now
This Is
that
Us.
has Mandy Moore? This Is
This
Us.
Is Us. In
It-
fact,
it reminds me of
yeah,
that.
Yeah, the reviews will say, if you like This Is Us.
Oh, there you go.
read this book. I did take note.
I
of
don't
that,
remember which one came first.
I think This Is Us.
I don't think they're totally disjointed.
Yeah.
But like one wasn't inspired by the other, but it made you think of that, for sure.
Interlocking stories, going back and forth in time, told in different voices. Yes, highly emotional family story, but it's all the feels. It's not just a tearjerker, and it's really a profoundly moving book. So
I like it.
highly recommend. We have this one obviously physically. We also have the book on CD. You can get the ebook or the e-audiobook on Libby, and obviously you can get it through interlibrary loan too. So it's
Wow.
very available.
Yeah, and that's helpful just because it's won so many awards.
Yes.
So that's a good way to do a buddy read. So if you like ultimate or multiple formats, or you're going on a road trip, you can share that with other people and then discuss it.
I believe I listened to it when I first read this. So great book.
What is a buddy read? Is that like a book club just for two people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I liked this one. This was Nicole Deese's. This is the second one that I picked up by her, and now there's a third one out that I'm just so excited. Okay, so does this not totally remind you of a mermaid cover?
It does.
And I picked it up because I thought so too. It's not. This is makeup. So this one follows our main character. She's a social media influencer, so it feels very contemporary, like everybody's watching TikTok. And in this case, our main character, Molly, she is like sold herself to social media. Like that's her income.
That's her livelihood.
Yeah, that's her
job.
livelihood. So like people send her things constantly, and she talks and does her makeup online. It builds up the character in a way that I had not read from a book standpoint before. In this one though, her boyfriend is her manager.
Oh.
So there's this twist, and then he gets all rookie of the year on her and is like, hey, you could get more points or bonus points or more money if you do this, this, and this, like trying to sell them to the Mets or to the Yankees or whatever. Okay, so in our story, Molly, she's like, okay, what else can I do? I've already worn the clothes, I've already done the makeup, and he goes, you need to go influence people in a physical way, and introduces her to it's almost like this halfway house, boys and girls club for just girls. Yes. And go and give them makeovers, go and influence them in this physical way.
That's interesting.
Right? So it takes it, and then you get the sub characters of the teens that live in this house and what their relationship is with Molly, who's never lacked for anything. And you get the dynamics of kids coming and going from this halfway house. And then Molly finds what a real love interest is in the manager who runs the halfway house. So it's a contemporary romance, but it's super well done. And I loved that it was a character in a format that I have not read before, because everybody knows what an influencer is, but to read about it in a book was fun. So this is a contemporary Christian fiction romance. It is available as a book and an ebook, and it's All That Really Matters, again, by Nicole Deese. So they're same author, but they have nothing.
Two different stories.
Yeah, two totally different stories.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a second one that I felt kind of went along the same way. This one's about Cassie and Jeff, and this one actually is very similar to Before I Called You Mine as well, because it's that family building that you were talking about in this one. In this one, lots of bad dates again, right? And they decide, how are we ever going to get off of the dating platform? And then there's a good date. A good date that is, what do you say, what's that trope? Friends to lovers. They knew each other from high school.
Like high school sweetheart.
Well, I mean, they just knew each other.
Okay.
They were acquaintances or whatever. They have a really good date. After their really good date, they both end up as the primary caretaker of 3 children.
Oh.
Could be easy, right? Fun storyline.
Wait,
No,
two
they
separate
each,
families.
Yes.
Okay.
So his sister comes to visit with nieces and nephews. Is an addict. So you have your trigger warnings involved with that. Is an addict, disappears. So now he is taking over his niece and nephews, or maybe it's nieces and nephew. I don't remember. 3 kids.
Wow.
On her side of it, she works at a troubled teens home and ends up connecting really, really well with one of the main characters that I can't remember her name. I can't remember. But ends up bringing her home from work and her 2 siblings. And she's got 3 kids in her care.
Oh my goodness.
Super simple. They don't tell each other. So then you have your story arc of 2 people trying to form a relationship. They both have home stories that are like crazy. 6 children. It is a mess. It is
Some pretty massive omission.
yes. And like
so
how do you build a relationship?
around
Yes, it's crazy. There's a fire, there's custody, there's a car accident, there's kidnapping. It's like a book this big with all these different things. Crazy. Okay, so I would say with this one specifically, trigger warnings, abandonment is very, very clear in this one. The neglect, the drug abuse, and then the driving is caused by being intoxicated. So like you could get yourself into a bear with this one just because it could be very emotional in a different type of way.
Sounds like a very complicated story too.
Yes, but it was really cute too. I liked it. So First Responder, and it's a romance. So there you go. This was the Dating Charade by Melissa Ferguson. I picked it up because I thought the cover was cute, but then it ended up being so much more hidden behind just a pretty cover. So this one we have is a book, an ebook, and an e-audiobook. All these are checked out right now, but they're really good, which is why they're probably
And all of these are
checked out.
fiction so far, right?
Yes, these are all fiction.
Okay, so all we've done is fiction so far.
You have the memoir.
Well, I have a memoir, yeah.
Yeah, there
So
you go.
I'm shifting genres here real quick, and I actually I just started to listen to this one. It has been on my TBR pile for a while. This is called All You Can Ever Know by Nicole Chung. Again, highly awarded, highly lauded, great reviews. And it is an adoption. I'm not going to say it's an adoption memoir. It is a memoir of Nicole Chung's experiences as a child of transracial adoption. So it's not just about her adoption story itself. It's actually a story of her going and finding out the real story behind her adoption, which is different. So she's writing it as an adult on this search for her biological family, but she's also she's not just writing about the search, she's also reflecting on the complexities of transracial adoption. So she is a Korean American. She was adopted by white parents in the early 80s. And the story
How do you find your identity
yes.
in that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of reflecting on identity, what it means, like where you belong in a scenario like that, right? To whom do you belong? Are you ever Korean enough? Are you ever American enough? Are you ever white enough? Are you ever Korean enough? So there's very much identity and belonging here, but also it's it's another story that deals with the family you're born to versus the family that you make for yourself, or the family that chooses you, that adopts you, and then you deciding as an adult to re-choose them, if that makes sense. So it's a really complex, beautifully written memoir, but it also deals with the topic of adoption in a way I think you don't often find in other adoption stories. It's not a tidy narrative, all the sunny things about adoption. It really, really delves into the complexities, the grief and the loss that go along with adoption too. So beautifully written memoir, really interesting as well right now. I'm maybe halfway through and I can't wait to get back to listening to it tonight. Highly, highly recommend it. We do not have a physical copy of this. We do have it on ebook and e-audio on Libby, which is how I'm listening to it, but you can also get it through interlibrary loan. So something to think about, but excellent memoir. True
Does
story.
it have pictures in it?
It does not.
Okay.
No.
I know
that I've
that
seen so
sometimes
far.
like that would be
No.
the deciding factor, especially with memoirs, because the pictures can
You want to be
add
able to
so
picture
much complexity to it.
I think sometimes too, though, so something to think about when you're reading a memoir about something like this, there's privacy issues as
Yeah.
well. So when you're deciding to write about your family, that's always a hard enough decision. But when you're writing about something that's painful and complex like this too, sometimes you're protecting your people by not including family pictures. You're telling the story, but you're not giving the pictures to go along with it. So anyway, highly recommend.
I like
Yeah.
that one. Like having you talk about it, I think I read that a couple years ago.
Did you? It came out in 2019, I believe, or 2020.
Maggie reads so much that she can't remember.
Maggie
Oh,
just,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay.
I listen so much that sometimes the stories start to run together.
When
2018.
you said the, like the biracial or the,
Well, she's-
multiracial adoption.
Yeah, transracial adoption.
Is she a teacher?
She's great question. She's a writer.
Okay.
No, she's an editor-in-chief of a magazine. No, she's not a teacher.
I might be getting them mixed up with something else.
Her,
It just it sounds
her biological
so familiar.
dad is, I believe, though, in the
Okay.
story. So, yeah.
I'll have to go back on my Goodreads and look. If not, I definitely want to pick that one up. It
Sure.
sounds a lot like this one that I have not read this yet. This is
Yeah.
Stranger Care by, how would you say that?
Sarah Sentillies. That
Sarah
one's been on my
Sentillies.
TBR list for a long time, too.
So when I was looking at, we just got this one in our collection here at Napanee Public Library in May. We put the stickers on them. We keep books for 4 months on our new bookshelf. We can let you know where that's at in the library if you're unfamiliar with where it is, but we just added it. So this is one that looks really good. We had kind of both been talking about, hey, this is one that we can have for our Book Bites episode. This is Stranger Care, a memoir on loving what isn't yours. And when I was looking up, it feels like kind of like this weight of, there were people that absolutely sobbed their way through it, loved this book, and other people that were like, I haven't thought about foster care and adoption the way that they mention it, and they weren't sure how they felt. So, I mean, we were talking about that emotion is a heavy hitter with all of these books.
Well, yeah.
But then state to state, there are a lot of things that are different as well. So in this one, it looks like it takes place in Idaho. The reunification process is what trumps that system specifically there. So it's not necessarily just the welfare of the child, but they would like to see the child
Reunited
with family. So when you are in a situation where you're trying to foster to adopt, that's a lot harder in certain states. So you've got to keep that in mind. And when you're reading books about foster care and the adoption and all the systems that are involved in it, there are so many acronyms.
Right.
So many acronyms. So you're constantly looking up things as you're reading, at least I was. What does this mean? What does that specific sentence delve into? So then you end up studying all kinds of things, and you learn a lot when you're reading about these types of books.
And adoption law has changed over the years too. So
Yes.
an adoptee from 1981, laws are different now.
Absolutely.
Actually, as of like 2014. So
Yeah.
that's a different story than this. That's from the foster parent's perspective. This
Yes.
is from the adopted child's perspective. So you get two different takes on
Oh yeah, and it's
what it is like.
that's
to
exactly
be-
what books
yeah.
are for. You're supposed to be able to, delve into somebody else's footprint, and you get to experience life in so many different ways. And just like having a meaningful conversation, these books open up those pathways to having those conversations. This one was written as a memoir. This one is written as a memoir/biography. And so I'm going to be really curious to read this one and see where I fall on that spectrum. Did they single out certain kids to let into their home for one reason over another? Was there selection involved? So so we'll have to see. This one is, again, Stranger Care. We have it as a book, an ebook, and an e-audio book. Again, any of the books that we're talking about today, if they pique your interest and you're interested in being placed on hold for items, please let us know and we'd be happy to do that. Do you want to do another one? You want me to keep going?
Why don't you do another one? Because I've got, yeah, you go.
Okay, so as we're doing these topics and we come up with episodes and themes, oftentimes I add so many books to my list of things that I want to read. I don't always get them done. So just with Stranger Care, this is another one that I have not read yet, but it came up with my subject search. And I'm like, oh, there you go. And I have this thing about cute covers.
You do.
I do. I pick up with these books like, look at this.
I
Does
don't.
that not look like...
I don't. I
There's
think
like
I
this
pick
cute
beautiful
little
covers.
bookshelf. And we recently just got a little free library as part of the Nappanee Public Library circulation area. And with that, there's like a lending library in this lady's home. So she's a very creative, frugal art teacher whose home library is disbanded. And that's a place where she found a lot of solace. And so she's like, how am I going to keep this book lover's dream alive? And she turns her sunroom into a lending library. And so in comes all these quirky neighbors, and she's building these relationships through the books that she is sharing. So I thought this one sounds really good. I have not read it, but it looks fantastic, and I want to read about it. So this one we have only as a physical book, but it is available here at the library. You might have to fight me for it because it's on my list to read now. This one, though, haven't read those two. This one I have read twice. And let me tell you, it looks like a long story. You'll read it in like an hour. It's double
middle grade.
space, lots of white space. This is
teen or middle grade.
They say it's a middle grade book, but we've got it shelved in teen.
I wondered. He tends to. He rides that line.
Yes.
I think.
So our author, Gary Schmidt, is actually from Michigan, so not too far from here, and he's a professor himself and has written oodles and oodles of books. This is probably my favorite so far. In this one, Orbiting Jupiter, it follows, how old is the kid that lives at the house? He's like 12 or 13. He's an only child raised on a farm. He has expectations of farm life, things that he has to do, chores that are expected. And his parents take in a teen who's just a couple years older than him, maybe 15. We'll say 15. And in this story, it's different because I feel like a lot of our adoption stories they kind of cover female characters. Does that sound accurate?
I mean the ones that we've talked about so far.
Well, that one has both
this one
boys
has
and
a teen
girls.
guy in it, but it's the two other main characters are both teenage girls. Yeah.
Okay. In this one, they're both men. So our foster teen that is brought in, he has a rough home life, and there's domestic abuse, and there's addiction, and he's actually a father himself. So he's 15, has a child. He's never seen his child. Her name is Jupiter. And he desperately wants to. So he's kind of now stuck on this farm. He was in kind of like a halfway house before that. What our main character knows about him is that he almost killed a teacher, and how much truth there is and what the backstory is kind of builds our character in this one. And it is this, none of them are happy-go-lucky stories. Some of the romances are feel-good, but this one made me think, what is it like to be pulled from a family while trying to get back to the family you created? And I bawled my way through this one, and then turned around and read it again and bawled a second time too, because I knew it was going to happen. Don't read this one unless you're looking for a cry. We should just put tissues.
Just a tissue image on each book that's
There
a
you go.
tearjerker.
This is a tearjerker. So, I don't even know what else to say without giving this one away. Martha, have you read this one?
Yeah, I bawled like a baby.
There you go.
Awesome.
So, I wonder if there's any tear stains in this. Probably not. I don't know. This one, it got me. So, Orbiting Jupiter, we have this as a book and an ebook in Libby. Okay, let's do another one over here.
Okay, I'm gonna switch to.
Don't make me cry.
Well, this one will not make you cry. This is a super sweet picture book. I have to say too, my last few books, I have read this one, but the reason I read it was because it was recommended to me by friends and family who have either adopted and or fostered. So I was reaching out for some suggestions from folks in my life who have experience with either one of those situations. Either they themselves were adopted, or they foster, or they have adopted. And this is one of the books that was recommended. It's an older one. I believe it's 96 or 97. It's Tell Me Again About the Night I Was Born. Jamie Lee Curtis, the actress. This is her book. This one will not make, I don't know, maybe this one will make you cry. But it is just a super sweet picture book written from the voice of the child in the book who was adopted, just asking for that comforting story that they've heard a million times about the night that I came into the world. What was that like for you? And the interesting thing about this is, I mean, kids love that, right? Like, you like to hear your origin story. It's comforting. Tell me where I come from. Tell me who I belong to, you know, that kind of a thing. And you get that in this book. And adoption is really just one line. It's suggested throughout, but there's really only one or two lines that specifically mention, specifically allude to the fact that the child in the book is adopted. There's not a big deal made about it. It's just a kid looking to hear the story of where she came from, to whom she came, and what that was like for her parents.
So you could read it without having an adoption standpoint at all, and it would still mean just as much.
Yeah, I mean, for every kid, that origin story is something that matters, but it just happens to be that this kid is adopted. And I just thought it was dealt with so deftly and sweetly. It's a highly relatable book, whether or not you have been adopted, whether or not you have adopted. It has more to do with that universal kid experience of, tell me again where I came from, right? Tell me that I belong to you. Tell me how we became a family, that kind of a thing. It's a really lovely little picture book. And this is one specifically that friends in my life have said was important to them or has been important to their adopted children, helping them kind of in a very gentle way make sense of, how did I get here, right? How did I get into your family? So this one, because it's older, we don't have it on the shelf. It is available through Interlibrary Longo. So, and you can also get it on Amazon. So if you're interested in it, this is one you're going to have to get from another library. We can get it for you. There's lots of copies out there.
We did have it
Did we?
15 years ago.
It's older, yeah.
But it like just fell
apart. Yeah.
But that's the sign of a really good book.
It is. Yeah.
It's just read that much.
Yep, and especially a kid's book when you know it's been requested over and over and over again, much like the story at the heart of this book. So, great book.
I love it. The next two books that I have are also on my to-be-read list. So this is going to be to the end of June, The Intimate Life of American Foster Care. This is by Cris Beam, and this one I'm going to have to take in stride because it goes back into like, I think I'm going to have to investigate as I'm reading. It's not just going to be one where you can sit there and read it from cover to cover, because there's so many things that I don't know about foster care and adoption, and so like to just read a sentence, I would go back and I'd start Googling things, and that leads me down a rabbit hole. But I thought this one looked really good, so I grabbed it so that we could mention it. This one is currently available in our nonfiction section, which we are overhauling at the moment. So if you want to look for this title, please don't be hesitant to ask staff where you're going to be able to find it. It is physically only available as a book in our collection. And this one is Emilie Richards, When We Were Sisters. And this is going to be a fiction story about two sisters who are actually, they met through foster care, and their lives take totally different turns as they're growing up. And then an accident leads them back together because they decided, you know, we're always going to be sisters, always going to be there for each other. We are chosen family. And so I felt like the dual perspective of this one sounds like another really good feel-good story. And hopefully I'm recommending a good one to you. So this one is by Emilie Richards, and we have it as a book and an ebook, and I'm hoping to read that one soon.
Okay.
What are a couple other ones that you have, and then we'll close out?
Yep, we can wrap up with these. So these were two other books. One I have the copy of right here. It's not our copy. And the other one I don't have a copy of, so here's the cover. These are both by the same author, Karen Purvis. First one is called The Connected Child. The second one is called The Connected Parent. And I bring these because these were, again, multiple recommendations from folks in my life who either have adopted or have fostered, for whom these were invaluable resources. So when I asked one person in my life specifically, I said, if you could recommend one resource for somebody who's considering adopting, she said, anything by Karen Purvis. So here you go, Connected Child, Connected Parent. They both deal with similar topics. This one is older. I think this one was 2007. Connected Parent was released in 2020, so it's like a follow-up. They both, in broad strokes, deal with parenting kids, parenting adopted kids or fostering kids and specifically fostering attachment between yourself and that child, particularly with kids who may come from hard places or hard backgrounds. This one specifically deals with how to help nurture children, bring them into your home, create attachment with, even it goes into discipline, it goes into scripts you can use with your child that help you both give them the safety and the structure that they need, but help them develop as people as well and attach to you. And this one specifically has to do with kids who come from hard places, and this one is more about adoption in general. Knitting together a family that may or may not be all biologically connected. So invaluable resources recommended by friends and family. If you are considering adopting or fostering, these were their go-tos. Both of these are available as ebooks on Libby. Both of these are, so we have them digitally. We do not have the physical copies, but you can get the physical copies through Interlibrary Loan. And both adult nonfiction resources, not stories. They have stories to help illustrate the information, but it's not a memoir. It is a informational resource if you're considering. Yep.
So with the multiple formats and being part of Indiana Digital Library, we have oodles and oodles of books and content at our access. So if you are unfamiliar with how to use those things, please stop in, see the staff. We're well trained in being able to teach you how to use those apps, or if you want to use them on a web version, those are available as well. And we can get you connected to even a larger collection than what we have here housed in our brick and mortar building. On next week's episode, we're going to be featuring books that have won the Newbery Award. So that one is going to be super fun. I'm excited to have you back. Again, we're going to put all these titles that we've mentioned today in our comments, and you can look and see what formats those are available in. And if there's something that you want we don't have, please let us know, and we'd be happy to get that for you. I think that's it for today. Did we have any holds that we were going to be pulling for people? Okay, and then we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.